Okay. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Citywide conversation. Where we'll be discussing the Atlanta Beltline's historic and cultural resource study to the public. I'm Sam Kanak, Senior Community Engagement Manager for Atlanta Beltline, Inc. In order to meet our promise of a Beltline for all, we are working to collect demographic and geographic information from our participants. This information is strictly for internal reference and research purposes. It will be used to guide us in outreach and in public engagement efforts and will not be distributed to other organizations. Next slide. Thank you again for joining us tonight for tonight's citywide conversation, where we'll be talking about the historic and cultural resource study. Tonight, we have folks tuned in on Zoom and Facebook Live. If you're on the Zoom platform, we have enabled live transcription. And if you would like to view this option, please click Show Caption at the bottom to select your preference. Next slide. At this time, I'll provide an overview of the meeting format for tonight. We are joined by folks here on Zoom and having more join us as we keep going on the Zoom virtual meeting platform. We are also trying to broadcast to live to Facebook. If you're watching on the Zoom platform or Facebook Live, you can follow along at the agenda at the top of each slide. If you're listening in by phone, I will walk through the meeting agenda shortly. This public meeting will be made available later this week on the Beltline's website at beltline.org/meetings. Next slide. Our agenda tonight has opened with a welcome, meeting logistics, and Beltline 101 will be following up shortly. After that Beltline 101, we'll have a presentation about the historic and cultural resources study, beginning with a project recap, community engagement findings, and the study's 3 deliverables: the inventory, challenges and opportunities report, and the historic and cultural resource guidelines. We'll wrap up with next steps. Following this presentation, we'll have plenty of time for question and answer. Next slide. All right, so the Beltline means different things to each person. So before we get started with this main presentation, we want to make sure the room is grounded in what the Beltline is. So we're going to do a quick Beltline 101. So the Atlanta Beltline is the vision is to be the catalyst for making Atlanta a global beacon for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable city life. And to do that, our vision is to implement 22 miles of pedestrian-friendly rail transit in partnership with MARTA, along with 33 miles of multi-use urban trails, which includes the 22 miles of the main Beltline corridor and 11 miles of connector trails. In addition to trails, we also, our goal is to create 1,300 acres of new green space. That may look like some old favorites, such as the historic Fourth Ward Park, or some new favorites over on the west side with the upcoming Anoda Park, which had its groundbreaking last year. It also includes 1,100 acres of environmental cleanup on the former rail corridor. In addition to environmental cleanup, our goal is to also create and preserve 5,600 units of affordable workforce housing. In terms of economic development, our goal is to be a catalyst for $10 billion in economic private investment to create 48,000 construction jobs and 50,000 permanent jobs. In addition to all those tangible things you see on the trail, our goal is to influence and commission public art along the trail, and to do what we're doing here tonight, making sure the community is involved through community engagement. So now that we have that grounding in the Beltline 101, I'm going to turn it over to Forrest Rose. He's the senior community planner for the Atlanta Beltline and the project manager for this project. Forrest, take it away.
Thanks so much, Sam. Good evening, everybody. I'm Forrest Rose. I'm a senior community planner with Atlanta Beltline and serving as the project manager on this study. Next slide, please. So this is going to just be a brief high-level recap of where we've been, but I want to first recognize that this effort was initiated through our Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee, our TADACT. So it's been a few years in the making, and we're excited that we're in a place now where we're wrapping it up, and we really appreciate TADACT's support with this as well. So this work has been a step-by-step process throughout 5 phases, we'll call it. We've included community input and research to planning guidelines, and then eventually we'll move to implementation. And one of the ongoing efforts has been stakeholder and community engagement, including forming an advisory committee and holding citywide conversations as well as pop-ups. So we kicked the study off last fall in September, where uh, we did an inventory with our hired consultant, and they also conducted Beltline research on all of our historic and culturally significant assets. And then throughout the winter and spring, there was the identification of our challenges and opportunities, which has been drafted on that gathered information. And then here we are in the summer where we're wrapping up this effort, building off of those challenges and opportunities, where we'll have a report that our consultant developed, and as well as guidelines, which will help us incorporate historic and cultural resource preservation and guidelines into the Beltline project. And then moving forward beyond this, we want to evaluate any potential implementation of those recommendations, including budgeting for future work. Next slide. So just a high level recap of our community engagement for this effort, where it was about a 9-month effort. We've had ongoing technical stakeholder engagement. We've developed a technical stakeholder advisory committee we call TSAC. And then we kicked the meeting off in September with a citywide meeting, if you all remember, where we gave an overview of the project scope and our initial research findings. And then over the winter in December, we held an open house at the historic Oakland Cemetery, where we engaged with the public, where folks could kind of walk around and visit various stations, where they could share insights and feedback on what historic and cultural resources were valuable to them, and they could review draft recommendations. We also held an online version of this pretty much through December. And then here we are in May, wrapping up the study with our challenges and opportunities and report, and we are planning to put that online for folks to review and read later this month or early June. Next slide. So I'm going to pass it back over to Sam, where she can touch on those specific community feedback we've received.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Forrest, for recapping some of our community engagement events and giving an overview of the project. So we want to use this time to share what we heard from the community during these events and give more details on how we collected that information. I like to think this is a pretty exciting part to hear what your community is thinking in terms of historic and cultural resources around the Beltline. But before we share some of our findings, I want to touch on one of our community engagement goals, which was to connect with stakeholders and community members. Since this project involves the tangible and intangible things that represent our history and culture, it invoked a lot of passion and memories and reflection, which really allowed us to connect with the community during our in-person open house. So we're really grateful for that experience. Our other goals was to form an understanding of community values and concerns for historic and cultural resources, which we wanted to use as a focusing mechanism when it comes to the implementation of this study. So here on the screen, you'll see 4 key themes that emerged through our community engagement, which helped to inform the deliverables that Carolyn from JMT will share shortly after. These key themes included, so Atlanta's diversity lends itself to a variety of places and spaces that are meaningful to its residents. So there wasn't one general consensus of, oh, this place means so much to me. This space is iconic for this reason. It really gave us like a wide range of places that were important to Atlanteans. In addition, as we started off, we started to see some similarities in different themes, but later on, as we got into more of the open house and had more conversations with folks, we saw a stronger time to land, parks, and public spaces than we originally anticipated. In addition, our project team, when they were doing that additional inventory around the Beltline, just in some informal conversations and an informal engagement with Beltline users, our project team found that a lot of folks, when they're asking, what are you doing out here on the trail in your construction vest? What are you doing? They were surprised to know that the Beltline was a former railroad. So that was something that we learned as well throughout this project, anecdotally. And then one of the main things we saw from community engagement insights and feedback was an emphasis on neighborhood identification and storytelling. that will really shine through when we go through these findings on the next slide. So during our first public meeting last fall, we used virtual engagement tools to ask participants open-ended questions about historic and cultural resources. You'll see one up on the slide here. We were then able to analyze these answers and use them in future surveys and engagement materials. So as you can see here on the screen, participants found neighborhood history to be meaningful to them, along with civil rights and Black history and Atlanta's industrial heritage, particularly through railroads. When we asked about cultural programming and we heard suggestions for more educational opportunities such as tours, art exhibits, displays, and signage, and more celebration and music on the trail. Finally, when we asked about specific buildings or structures or cultural spaces to preserve, we heard mostly general answers, such as churches or bridges or industrial buildings, civil rights resources. It didn't get more into those specifics until community members shared specific neighborhoods or streets where there's a collection of historic resources, such as Sweet Auburn or the Washington Park neighborhood. Next slide. So our most robust community engagement response came from our digital survey, which you'll see some of the results here on the screen. That was the most robust and the most feedback we got, since QR codes are super easy to use and all the rage nowadays. And we were able to combine this engagement opportunity with some of our other meetings at the Atlanta Beltline. So as I mentioned earlier, we used the open-ended feedback from that first meeting to develop themes that the public could then rank. We had about over 50 plus people fill out the survey with representation from all quadrants of the Beltline. So some of the responses that you'll also see on the screen demonstrated that the top 3 historic themes that the community members wanted the Beltline to focus on included Beltline neighborhood history and culture, Black history and culture, and general Atlanta culture. The top cultural programming that respondents wanted to see more on the Beltline included music events and art exhibits, 2 of which are already active programs under the Beltline's arts and cultural program. So we saw an opportunity there to expand some of the work we're already doing and some of the messaging and marketing around those events. And I'll just add in here the next upcoming music event being tied to is that the Atlanta Beltline's hosting is tied to next month's Beltline Fest. If you haven't heard about it, the announcement went out last week, so definitely encourage you all to look that up if you're interested in arts and culture on the Beltline. And then finally, when we asked about specific sites that were special to the community, there was a lot of mention, again, of streets and neighborhoods, but not really one specific place. And again, kind of going similar to that first survey response for places such as like Sweet Auburn, Washington Park, and and Blandtown and other historic neighborhoods in Atlanta. Next slide. So during our open house, we got to get more creative too and use a postcard to the future prompt to understand what future generations, what community members today want future generations to know about the Atlanta of today and yesterday when they visit the Beltline in 2050. So overall, participants wanted future generations to protect and honor what started in Atlanta and contributed to American history and culture, such as civil rights and social justice, Black culture, music, and railroad and industrial origins that contributed to America's early prosperity. So in addition to this is where we started to see the trend of holding the land that we are on as really significant. We're seeing a lot of folks mentioning indigenous peoples that inhabited the area before us, native plants and parks being significant to the community. Next slide. So in our attempt to see if there are any clear places and spaces that were overwhelmingly meaningful to the community, we use this map prompt here during our open house. And this is where we really found that due to Atlanta's diversity, there's a wide range of places and spaces that are special to the community, ranging anywhere from farm spaces, office buildings, department stores, the murals around the Beltline. We saw that come through here. Next slide. And finally, before I let Carolyn take it away with an overview of the final deliverables from the study, I wanted to give a brief overview of how all of this feedback that I just mentioned from the technical stakeholders and the community members was used to inform the deliverables. Overall, every major recommendation developed by our project team and the deliverables that'll be discussed shortly traces back to something the technical stakeholders and the community told us. I'll briefly describe a few examples, but you can also see them on your screen here. So the first one being protecting the Beltline's industrial character came up a lot, and this really helped the project team shape the resource-specific treatment guidance and covering rail bridges, tunnels, retaining walls, industrial buildings, and cultural landscapes in the historic and cultural resources guidelines deliverable. In addition, Beltline neighborhood history and culture will serve as a top interpretive priority, and this really helped to inform the interpretation framework and the guidelines deliverable and the program recommendations that support community-led projects such as heritage commissions and mini grants. Questions over responsibility and decision-making from the technical stakeholders led to recommendations for more defined roles for Atlanta Beltline departments, as well as a preservation lead a recommendation and an early screening checklist for Atlanta Beltline departments to use during their projects. In addition, the opportunity for the Beltline to reach a greater audience for available incentives for adaptive reuse led to the development of the adaptive reuse toolkit and other learning opportunities for communities and developers. And then finally, recognizing that places matter to the community, even if they don't meet the criteria for the National Register of Historic Places, and the need to look more holistically at spaces shaped the places of community importance framework and inform the corridor heritage registry. With that, understanding this community engagement and how it was used, hopefully now you'll be able to see how it was used throughout the development of these deliverables that Carolyn will speak to now. Carolyn is a senior architectural historian for JMT, and she'll take it away from here.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. So I've been on the project team for this since we kicked it off last year, and some of you may remember me from the December open house. But tonight I'm going to go over each of the three major deliverables that were developed during this study, the first of which is the inventory for historic structures, places, and spaces. Next slide, please. The deliverable one inventory documented ABI-owned and controlled assets and structures. A lot of these were rail bridges, but also individual parcels of land that are along the Beltline corridor that are also 50 years or older, which is an age cutoff that we establish in the preservation field because structures are typically not considered historic age until they're at least 50 years old, though there's always exceptions to that rule. The inventory revealed a variety of historic buildings associated with Atlanta's industrial history. A lot of these are things like former warehouses, associated facility infrastructure, commercial building like storefront, the working class neighborhoods that surround these locations, and the associated transportation infrastructure to move products to market via the railroad. This deliverable resulted in a large spreadsheet that is a valuable internal tool for ABI to understand where their assets lie and where the Beltline lies within Atlanta's local landmarks and local landmark districts, National Register of Historic Places districts, and also assesses potential eligibility for these assets for the National Register of Historic Places. We're currently working to incorporate this into a corridor heritage registry tool, and not only as an internal tool, but also to be able to show this on a map that can eventually be shared with planners within ABI. Next slide, please. The second deliverable was the Challenges and Opportunities Report, which examined the conditions along the corridor, identified where preservation pressures exist with the help of your feedback in previous engagement opportunities. Also maps the regulatory and institutional landscape ABI operates within and establishes recommended actions grounded in what ABI can do within its authority. Next slide, please. So the Historic and Cultural Resource Mission Statement is standing organizational guidance and is really the heart of everything that was developed. We have a long format mission statement in Appendix A of the Challenges and Opportunities report that'll be visible when this is all published. But there's kind of three major takeaways with the mission statement. First, that ABI commits to recognizing, documenting, and stewarding historic and cultural resources across the corridor. And this means that ABI should be taking these resources into account during project planning. And a lot of this process is about creating tools that make that accessible throughout the process. Second, ABI's role is in coordination, integration, and visibility. While there's other organizations and partner agencies that have regulatory and designation authority in Atlanta and Georgia at large. Among these are things like the Georgia State Historic Preservation Office, the Urban Design Commission, the City of Atlanta's Department of City Planning. And essentially what ABI is doing is to make sure their preservation considerations are part of how projects are planned and delivered internally from the beginning. And third, the mission statement is also written to function as permanent organizational reference and is cross-referenced consistently throughout the guidelines, which is our last and final component of the historic and cultural resource study. Next slide, please. So within the Challenges and Opportunity report, 7 focus areas were identified, each with accompanying implementation strategies. This first group on this slide covers tools and programs that translate most directly into corridor level outcomes. I'm going to describe these in brief tonight, but know that when the Challenges and Opportunity report is published on ABI's website in June, you'll be able to deep dive into that, and also happy to go in depth once we get to Q&A tonight. So under the Unified Cultural Landscape, the study recommends that establishing a cultural heritage registry with the inventory data from the first deliverable that I talked about, and also a history and culture online portal. This is to just increase the sense of the cultural landscape that the Beltline operates on as a former industrial rail corridor. The registry in particular will be a quick reference on eligibility evaluations, community identified places, and also project level documentation. The goal is to eventually show everything from preservation kind of at large, traditional preservation, National Register listed, and like locally listed resources, to also more micro scale, like special community gathering places for specific groups, and being able to identify those with an actual place on a map. And that will also be shown on the History and Culture online portal as a more public-facing resource. Eventually can get to a place where it's showing not just a map, but you can associate stories, photos, and again, as the Beltline takes on project updates. Under adaptive reuse, which is the practice of reusing old buildings for new purposes, the study recommends developing an adaptive reuse toolkit and also hosting periodic incentive workshops for developers and property owners near the Beltline. The intent, especially with the workshops, is to create exposure for all the tools out there that exist to support adaptive reuse, which includes there's a federal historic tax credit program for National Register listed properties that are also income producing. There's also a Georgia state tax credit that was recently expanded under HB 376. There's also other tax incentives through the Brownfield tax incentives, Invest Atlanta programs, and also new market tax credits that can all help adaptive reuse projects. And then finally on this slide, the interpretation and storytelling component, the recommendations are mainly expanding on ABI's existing arts and culture programming and recommending to infuse more history and heritage-based art within that. So that can look like art commissions, integrating interpretive content into planned infrastructure, and also piloting community storytelling mini grant programs for people to talk about their neighborhood, talk about their connection with these places that the Beltline passes through. Our last deliverable in particular, the guidelines are going to provide detailed framework for connecting these activities to specific resource types and neighborhood histories along the corridor. Next slide, please. So a couple more of these challenges and associated actions with them to go over before I talk about how we're doing developing deliverable 3. Next, I would like to talk about the community partnerships and equitable engagement. This is mostly through internal learning opportunities, strengthening ABI's partnerships with other organizations, and applying a more inclusive criteria for places of community importance. The internal learning opportunities means connecting ABI staff with neighborhood stories through things like tours, conversations, and visits to culturally significant places, really to just start and maintaining a relationship with local knowledge and creating a culture of respect around that. Again, this can also happen through strengthening partnerships with MPUs, the neighborhood planning units, and cultural organizations about sustained engagement rather than one-off consultations. And the last part, applying the inclusive criteria for place of community importance means that the study is recommending developing a framework for recognizing more ephemeral importance that can develop associated with place. So things like community gathering spaces, cultural traditions, and everyday meaningful places alongside more formally designated resources. The report describes how that would function and how community identified places would relate to the internal historic cultural registry structure within the Beltline. On the right side, I've got internal policy and interagency coordination. This mostly talks about developing the historic and cultural resource mission statement that I alluded to at the beginning. And also within this, what we're ultimately recommending is a preservation lead within ABI to function and establish a consistent point of contact for preservation-related questions across projects that can be assigned within existing staff roles. And they can monitor projects through the early screening checklist, which is a tool that will make this more operational and something that can be implemented at the start of a project. And again, we're hoping to see this function where a project manager will identify whether the project involves or is adjacent to any documented resources and will determine whether further coordination is needed with specific neighborhoods, with the City of Atlanta Urban Design, Georgia SHPO, things like that. Next slide, please. Now, these last two are connecting how projects are actually built and maintained. Environmental coordination and site documentation means ABI's remediation and construction teams would have guidance for what to do when historic material is encountered during active work. A lot of this can relate back to things like archaeology, unexpected finds, things like that. The report recommends a stop and assess protocol that gives project teams a defined next step when they encounter features that weren't anticipated. This isn't about halting work, but it's about having stopgap protocol so that teams know what to do. And then the second subset of that, preserve industrial remnants, means that when things like rail features, historic masonry and stonework, and other corridor elements that really visually tie the Beltline to its past are encountered, we're recommending that there's a preference sequence consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards. These are standards established by the National Park Service, kind of is the base for all preservation as it typically works in this country. And everything has been developed to keep in line with that and recommend that. And in short, those standards basically say to retain in place first and then adapt for compatible reuse. If not that, then salvage for reuse. And then if not that, then document before removal. The final component, the design, integration, and infrastructure stewardship, means that engineering teams would have material-specific reference guidance for the actual conditions along the corridor. This would happen when a project involves a historic masonry bridge. That means compatible mortar, gentle cleaning methods, and repair approaches. When it's something like a steel truss span, that would mean reinforcement, surface treatment, finish matching. Again, kind of rooted in those Secretary of the Interior standards that I just talked about. And the report establishes that direction and provides kind of access to that language. Again, with that is going to come staff training to learn these guidelines. Next slide, please. Our final deliverable for the study, the Historic Preservation Guideline recommendations, is currently in development, currently being reviewed internally. But it's basically going to be an internal toolkit for ABI planners to incorporate into their workflows. A lot of what I was just talking about in the challenges and opportunities report kind of naturally flows into this one. So the way that the study is structured, you can think of the challenges and opportunity report is the strategy, while the guideline recommendations that I'm about to talk about is the handbook. Next slide, please. So as I said, this is an internal document to the Atlanta Beltline, but it's being designed to function so that a project manager gets it, they open it at kickoff, they complete the checklist, and they know what to do next as far as their treatment of historic and cultural resources along the Beltline. It's organized first going over specific treatment guidance over 7 resource types encountered along the corridor. These are listed on the left here. And they include rail bridges, things like tunnels, retaining walls, culverts, industrial buildings, cultural landscapes, archaeological features, place of community importance, and finally, interpretation of all of those. These all keep a pretty consistent format because, again, the guidelines aren't necessarily designed to be cover to cover. It's designed to, you get the guidelines, you're like, okay, I'm dealing with a rail bridge, so let me go to the rail bridge section and see how this needs to be treated. Next slide, please. The guidelines are also establishing 3 implementation tools The first of which is the early screening checklist. This will be just a fillable form at project kickoff. We'll say if this, then that. Second, the Corridor Heritage Registry as a structured documentation and tracking framework. We've started to create that with the inventory from deliverable one of this study, but there's sort of consistent forms and aspects for each type of thing that through time more can be added to the Corridor Heritage Registry as things reach age and or new importances discovered, things like that. And then the last implementation tool, the Adaptive Reuse Toolkit, is a standalone resource for the property owners and project sponsors for if they have a historic resource to adaptively reuse and preserve. We're also defining the recommended roles and decision points within the guidelines. It'll tie preservation indicators to ABI's existing performance dashboards and are also grounded in professional preservation standards and just adapted to the Beltline's very specific infrastructure and community context. Now I'd like to pass the presentation over to Forrest to discuss next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thanks again to the JMT team. JMT team. This was a big effort, and there's very dense subject and the findings. So we really encourage y'all to read the document when we publish it online. So I'll talk about the next steps. Next slide, please. So this summer, our intent is to publish the challenges and opportunities report on our website. It will be available for to access. And then later this summer into the fall, we want to start prioritizing those recommendations that are highly prioritized, and also start training internal Beltline staff, because this document and this study will go across the entire organization. So not just planning and engagement. Next slide. So on a little bit of a lighter note, I think in the meantime, as we're finalizing the documents and getting ready to publish them online, I don't know if we've mentioned earlier in the presentation, but May is Historic Preservation Month. So before we kick off with FIFA and everything soccer, we encourage y'all to stay active in the preservation space. On the screen here, we have some city events as well as some events that we're hosting, and there's some links in the chat. But a city activity is the historic music venue space in Little Five Points. We also encourage everybody to check out our Beltline blog, where you can explore stories and things to do around the Beltline and around the city. And then also happy to announce June 20th and 21st is our Atlanta Beltline Fest, which will showcase what makes Atlanta one of the most dynamic cultural cities. So that's going to be in the height of the World Cup as that's happening. And then also we recently just announced the date of our fall or our annual Beltline Lantern Parade. So TBD on location, but we do have a date, and you can find out more information at beltline.org/art. And also, there's lots of art and culture around the trail, so we encourage y'all to check out pieces like the Natis Caddo Bear and also railroad workers. So I'm going to hand it over to Sam, where she's even going to dive even deeper with some of the stuff that you can do or check out in the meantime as well.
Yeah, next slide. Thanks so much, Forrest. So something that I'm really excited to share is that today started the partnership with StoryCorps and the Beltline. So if you're familiar with StoryCorps, they're a nationally recognized storytelling initiative, and they just kicked off their Southeast United States mobile tour. So they started their mobile tour at the Beltline today. So it's a little too late for that event, but there's some more happening throughout this weekend next. So feel free to lend your voice to the People's Project through this initiative. Today we had Beltline Day at Freedom Parkway, which was where folks were recording 20-minute sessions in the StoryCorps mobile van, and we're able to share some of what the Beltline means to them and share their stories through that. And then tomorrow the StoryCorps van will be at the Northeast Trail at Park Tavern from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on May 20th, they'll be at the Beltline Marketplace at Aileen. And then on May 26th, they'll be at the Southeast Trail at Boulevard. So during these events, so these later ones are going to be about hour-long recordings, and you come with a partner, or you can likely maybe meet somebody on the Beltline and partner with them. But it's a really, really cool initiative, and you have the option to upload these recordings to the Library of Congress to make sure that these stories are saved in time. I got to pop over to the one today at Freedom Parkway, and it was really inspiring just to hear what folks had to say about the Beltline, and everybody there they just wanted to talk. They wanted to share their story. So it's a really inviting place to be, and we think it ties really well to some of the findings that we found in this report as well, with that neighborhood, that storytelling piece about Beltline neighborhoods and what Beltline means to them. So we think this is a really great tie and one to promote it here. There's still some options to sign up for some of the upcoming dates, and then there's always the option to upload your recording on the StoryCorps app. So encourage folks to do that as well. Next slide. So now we've made it into our question and answer session. So you can now be questions and comments can be typed in the question and answer box. So our audience is made up of Zoom, online, and phone attendees, as well as Facebook Live attendees. So I'm going to review just how you can all contribute to this conversation. So if you're a phone attendee, which I believe we have one, and you'd like to speak, you can press *9 on your telephone keypad. This will allow you to raise your hand, and a member of our team will open your line when it's your turn. And your phone will prompt you to press *6 to unmute yourself. If you're an online attendee, so if you're a Zoom attendee, which is the majority of us, you can submit a response at any time in that Q&A box. So you should be able to see it at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can also raise your hand. The raise your hand feature is not available to Zoom participants. We're going to only use it for phone attendees. And then Facebook Live attendees, please feel free to participate in the comment section. Someone on our staff will make sure I see your question, and they're monitoring that there. So again, if you want to participate, feel free to ask your question in the Q&A box. But we really hope that you all enjoyed tonight's presentation about the study, and shortly when we get to our last few slides, you'll see some contact information as well. So if you have any follow-up questions that come up later on, you can feel free to ask it there. So we'll hold this a question and answer time for a little while. I see some coming into the Q&A box now, so I'll read it out for folks. This is from Sarah. I am a local archaeologist interested in expanding Atlanta's urban archaeology guidelines. I just want to say I'm very happy to hear that you're considering archaeological resources and land acknowledgements for Indigenous people. Most people think urban environments are too heavily distributed to reveal archaeological sites, but that's very inaccurate. Good work. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your comment. This was a piece that we really have been hearing from stakeholders during the open house, is a desire to recognize more Indigenous spaces. It's something we're also hearing from some of our Southwest Atlanta neighbors. They've dedicated a space over in the Southwest to the Muskogee Creek Indigenous peoples that used to live there. So it's something that we've definitely been hearing about, and good luck with all your work. And I'll pause if anybody on our team wants to respond as well. Wonderful. Do we have any other questions? And I'll check with our team to see if there's anything in Facebook Live as well. Awesome. We have another one from David Mitchell. How is ABI going to support creating new National Register districts? Also, how is ABI ensuring that whatever standards are created are sustainable? Great question. I'm gonna have I'll have Carolyn, if you want to get started with that question, then I'll have somebody from ABI as well help to follow up.
Sure thing. So for the National Register districts, it is really just what is kind of limited to what ABI actually owns. There are a number, as you know, of eligible areas. These are listed in Chapter 2, but in the corridor context and leveled out in there. Eligibility listing, always an option, always there as a site interpretation and cultural planning tool. Within there, both at the National Register level to, again, open up sites for potential use for, taking in tax credits, all of the incentive programs, things like that. And then also sites like Ormwood Avenue Bridge that are Atlanta landmarks. There's also potential for recommending more of those. Again, part of the cultural resource study, we were mostly logging what was existing in there. And again, we've been able to sort of inform ABI of what is possible within going through listing, things like that.
Thanks, Carolyn. Forrest, do you want to respond as well?
Yeah, hey, thanks for the question, David. So in regards to, sustainability of those standards, I think, that's partially why we want to ensure that, the entire organization is well versed on the toolkit and the handbook. So, if and when folks move on and the organization, it's kind of an evergreen document. So that's the intent, is that, it's plug and play when a new project manager comes along, or someone else is managing a project, that they can just plug in and learn what to do with those standards.
Thanks, Forrest. Thanks for the question. We have another one from Jacob. We have a question from Jacob. How does a community-based nonprofit dedicated to local history get involved? Jacob, we'll have our contact information up on the next slide, but I'll drop my email address into the chat as well. I think we're always open to community engagement and partnering with community organizations, especially in this space, as we look to do more of this work. So I'll drop that in there shortly, and that's something we'd love to partner with, because as you probably saw in some of the recommendations, that partnering with more cultural organizations and NPUs is a big piece of making this study happen. We have another question from David. I am very aware of the narrative of what ABI owns, but does ABI plan to make a staff around this program and or dedicate a mindset program of this work to grow the catalog from just the Ormwood Avenue Bridge? Forrest, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, so I think, David, we discussed this, I think when we had our last TSAC meeting, but so JMT's recommendations are to bring on a full-time staff, and I think we're we may be exploring some kind of on-call or professional service to help with this type of work. So it's still to be determined on how that looks. And then I think, again, a lot of it has to do with city coordination, because the landmark districts and are city. So I think that's still all kind of fluid as we wrap the study up and work through implementing some of those guidelines. Obviously, the first ones we want to implement are the higher priority and like creating the registry and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think should help you out.
Yeah, thanks, Forrest. I think Lynette, did you want to chime in as well? For some reason, I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. While Lynette figures out audio, does anyone else have any questions? And I'll check too to see if you have any on Facebook Live.
Uh, Sam?
Yep,
Okay,
you're
sorry
good.
about that. Yeah, just wanted to underscore what Forrest mentioned a moment ago. Is you've been one of the stakeholders, technical stakeholders, David. You know that the goal is just to create a toolkit of sorts that we can use in a variety of different ways. And so the idea is that if it is connecting with the city and the city decides to do something that's a district, or if it's something that we look at, all of these are still to be determined. It would be hard and difficult to say yes to districts at this moment, as you're well aware. Like those would be evaluated on a case by case basis, looking at feasibility and where we are, et cetera, in the project line. So that's what I'll say to that. And then just underscoring what Forrest mentioned about on-call services for that role, and not a full-time employee per se. That's the direction we're going with some of our special services.
Awesome. Thanks, Lynette. I'll pause if there's any other questions. We don't have anything on Facebook. But in the meantime, just again wanted to thank everyone for their time tonight and for their for taking the time out of their night to talk more about historic and cultural resources. This has been a really fun study and something totally new for the Atlanta Beltline to kind of explore some of the spaces and places that are special along the corridor. So we're really appreciative of that. And again, this really stemmed from our advisory council, the TAD advisory council. So I'm really excited to see this go through fruition and then work towards implementation as well. So not seeing, okay, we have one more question. When does this go on the website and when does it activate? Forrest, do you want to answer that? I know you mentioned it a couple times.
Of course, yeah. So we want to get it in Beltline dress, for lack of a better word. So it's going to look nice and pretty. So, to match our design typologies for our published documents. So once we get through those final little tiny revisions from JMT, we'll get that buttoned up and it'll be online. And if you're on our list, our email listserv, we'll reach out and share the direct link of where it's going to be located. So I would say, mid-June at the latest. And then it becomes activated when we start later this summer when we start implementing some of those recommendations. So the intent is to kind of hit the ground running into the next fiscal year and beyond.
Thanks, Forrest. And yeah, as Forrest mentioned, we have everyone's email address that registered for this meeting. So if they attended, or maybe they didn't attend and they registered and want to watch the recording, they'll get a direct email with a link to the document as well, just to make it even easier to find it. And then the next question is, will stakeholders have an opportunity to view the draft plan in advance of final publication? So yeah, I think we mentioned it throughout the presentation tonight that we have a technical stakeholder advisory committee that some folks on this call are a part of, and they've been really influential in the creation of the deliverables and the guidance of this study. So they have already received the challenges and opportunities report prior before it's become final. So they have given their comments, and it is going, as Forrest just mentioned, it's going into get Beltline-ified with all the different into a Beltline template before it's on the website. So they have seen it and have been able to provide feedback. Right. Do we have any other questions? These have been really great questions, and appreciate again everyone's attention and time tonight. We'll still let some questions roll through if there's any others, but if you want to go to the next slide, we just want to get make sure folks we just want to acknowledge that technical stakeholder advisory committee that I just mentioned. They've been really, as I mentioned before, they've been super influential in providing expertise and guidance that have really shaped this project. And we're really grateful for the time that they've taken out of their busy schedules to review documents, attend meetings, and get a lot of emails from me. So really, really grateful for the work of the technical stakeholder advisory committee for their work on this. Next slide. And finally, if you have come to a lot of Atlanta Beltline meetings in the past, we usually have a ton of polling questions. We're filing a new feedback survey, so you should get a link in the webinar chat, or you'll see a QR code that you can scan if you have your survey, your smartphone nearby. This is a super quick 2-minute feedback survey that will help us get feedback on the way our community engagement meetings are ran, how we could improve, and if there's something that you don't get answered on that survey that you want to share feedback on, you can always reach out to Forrest and I. Our contact information is in the chat and on the screen there for you. But with that, we thank you so much for taking the time to spending your Monday night with us. There will be a recording of this meeting on beltline.org/meetings, likely by tomorrow, and you'll hear from us as those reports are finalized, and you can find them on our website. But thank you all again for taking the time tonight, and hope everyone has a great rest of your evening, and see you out on the Beltline.
Thanks, everybody.